Ahoy Ye Swabs, Captain Jeff the Pirate here, at your service. Welcome to Captain Jeff Reviews and Questions Adventure Time. Now, this past week, we had the special Cartoon Network be doing the summer events, where for 1 week it's all this show is new, and then for another week, another show is new. So this past week, it was the Adventure Time series. Now, normally I see their show the one day, and then I do the notes and I put the review together and post it on the YouTube. But since there be so many new episodes, I wanted to make sure I looked over all these carefully and took the right notes. So I actually have paperwork for these episodes. So for all these episodes, I'll be doing them individually and posting them. But I just wanted to let you know, sorry for the wait since Monday. I wanted to make sure I got my reviews right. So, with that in mind, let's get started with the reviews. Arr. Alright, before I begin this episode, now, Monday through Thursday, each episode that I've been reviewing thus far was only half of the half-hour segments. But for Friday, they pulled out all the stops, and we got 2 back-to-back brand new episodes in one sitting. Arr. Don't worry, I'll only be reviewing one at a time. So here be the first one. The first episode would be Hot Diggity Doom. See, we open outside of the Candy Kingdom, and Peppermint Butler be nailing down a sign to the ground that says, "Vote Princess Bubblegum." Don't know what this be about. All we know is he's being watched from the trees by some mysterious, bearded, bespeckled, hat-wearing, trench-coat-wearing person-man thing, who proceeds to provoke a squirrel and then let it out of its cage, to which it attacks Peppermint Butler and takes out the sign. Peppermint Butler be like, "Guards, there be evil at the front." And suddenly the 2 gumball guardians stand up and begin to chase the squirrel. Can ye say overkill? Meanwhile, while inside the kingdom there be some election thing going on, as to indicated by the sign. The people are going to vote for who they want to rule. Princess Bubblegum or the King of Ooh. The King of Ooh, he be back. He's no longer being homeless, apparently, from the last time we saw him. He be wearing a fancy suit, and he be doing his campaign spiel. He be making outrageous claims, like he be 8,000 years old, he be wise, he be doing all these great things. And he be saying slander against the princess, that she be like a baby dressed up as a woman. Meanwhile, the princess, she's up in a tower, big telescope, trying to figure out the comet that be approaching. So then, the King of Ooh decides to bring in some parts to show why he should be voted. So then, there's this little cracker s'more thing. It says, "I be Mrs. James, I be James' mother." And Princess, after he was turned into a giant mutant glob thing, Princess Bubblegum had him banished to the Badlands. Now, while Princess Bubblegum, she said, "Your new assignment is to go to the Badlands and you'll get to metal every day." But in the technical sense, this be a fact. This be true. And I also find it weird how she cloned James like about 16, 17 times or more. So she clones the incompetent goofball, and yet the competent root beer guy is dead, and we haven't seen hide nor... I guess we haven't seen... fizz nor foam of root beer guy's clone. And yeah, it's weird how she selects who gets to be cloned and comes back and who doesn't get to just have a dirt nap. Arr. Now then, as a counterpoint to the king's statement, someone actually says, "But what about you, King of Ooh? You threatened to burn down Tree Trunk's apple orchard. You threatened her son Sweet Pea." Now, this is an undeniably true fact. So the king admits, "Yes, I admit that, and I am very sorry, Sweet Pea. I was a rabid dog, didn't know what to do. Pick me up. Now give me a kiss." So he somehow was able to manipulate Sweet Pea to accept his apology. And here be a giant plot hole. I mean, seriously, at the end of that episode, the Gold Stars, Sweet Pea terrifies the King of Ooh and his secretary, and they run away screaming. So, what, has he flat out forgot the horrible vision that was bestowed upon him by the Lich, who's in the Sweet Pea, or has he forgotten it, or is he in denial? Like, oh, that must have been just a really bad dream, or I must have eaten something really bad. He's not seemed to be worried about this whatsoever. Anyway, PB is still doing her observation work in the tower, and Peppermint Butler be like, you have to stop him. Princess, you have to do some campaigning. I mean, the candy people are dumb. She's like... And she says the election is barely even legal. Cut back to the king, who says this is barely a... Let's see. Yeah, she says the election is barely legal, but the king says that it's barely but fully legal, as suggested to him by his campaign manager, Mr. X. Mr. X be the mysterious man who set the squirrel upon the kingdom. And here be the weird thing. Okay, so Mr. X, mysterious person, bespeckled, facial hair. I'm trying to figure out, is this a reference to Mega Man? Seriously, at one point, there's Mega Man the comic and there's Mega Man the game, and they both involve the mysterious Mr. X. She also, now back Princess Bubblegum, she then points out that she made the citizens, she made their homes, and even though they are Mercurial, which I figured out they sometimes act, they just act sporadically or different than what is normal, they are not, quote, dillweeds, end quote. And he even goes on to make the questioning statement of, they know that I love them, right? So then after that, everyone goes and votes, and then the person who's tallying up the votes is Starchy. So I guess this is Starchy 2, this is the clone. Again, it is very weird how she picks who gets to come back to life as a clone and who stays dead. I mean, seriously, we had Root Beer Guy was actually competent in his job. I mean, you can't rely on Finn and Jake forever. Oh, let's see, what is it? Hang on a second. We actually see Finn and Jake in the crowd. So after the incidents from at the first of these reviews, you forgot your floaties. Apparently Finn and Jake are back to no longer being bread and porridge. It took them a while to come back, though. Anyway, so then the results are in, and Starchy says, the King of Boo is our new princess. Oh boy. To which Bubblegum screams, what? So then, in a rage, she comes down from her tower, and she's like, you be a dillweed, you be the secretary of a dillweed, and you, Mr. X, are a dillweed I've never met before. You're all 3 dillweeds who are going to dillweed my kingdom. And you! She then gets ready to chew out her citizens, but she holds off, just drops her crown, and leaves. The only person that be following her out is Peppermint Butler. But then Finn and Jake follow and say, Princess, we swore loyalty to you. No, you swore loyalty to the kingdom. She asks them to keep an eye on the citizens, even though if it means working for a total wad like the King of Boo. She doesn't know if or when she'll be back. And then she just walks off into the sunset. And the next day, there'll be a grand and glorious coronation for the King of Boo, now the princess of the Candy Kingdom. So, princess and king and... oh boy. Now, for those of you who remember, we have the episode of Hoots. If the Cosmic Owl is in a dream, it's prophetic, which means the events will happen either metaphorically, figuratively, literally. So far, some aspects of the dream seem to be coming true in some subtle, minor ways. Now, Princess Bubblegum and Peppermint Butler come to like this old, abandoned, rusty-looking shack. They try to get the door open, but after it does open, windows break, roof caves in, fridge falls over, and bats start flying out. Princess Bubblegum be like, everyone calm down, close your eyes, and recite your meditation chantra of calming. To which Peppermint Butler says, Princess? Oh, right. I miss protecting my citizens. This will take some getting used to. She also points out how this was a cabin her uncle, let's see, Uncle Gumbalt built with his own hands, and she spent much time here in her youth, so I don't know. I mean, based on how old she is and how old this is going on, and we haven't seen any others of her relatives. Like her father, she said her father cut down this one forest when we first discovered Susan Strong, and now this is her uncle, but I don't know. She's really old. I mean, she even met with Shugo, from the vault. Anyway, back in the kingdom. Anyway, she figures they'll have plenty of time to fix up the cabin because it'll take the citizens a long time to realize that it is worse to be ruled under a bad ruler than it is a good ruler. So I guess in her case, Princess Bubblegum is the good ruler. I say that with full finger air quotes, and I have no intention of retracting it. She may be good, but she's done some very underhanded and or questionable things, so she's good in some sense. Meanwhile, Starchy be sweeping up, and he says, "I thought under the new king there'd be better, but there's more stuff to sweep." Starchy all getting the sweaty end of the lollipop stick. Finn and Jake then show up, and they say, "Have you noticed things are getting more purpley around here?" To which they reply, "Yes," and they look, and Finn says, "Oh, it'd just be the Catalyst Comet." Starchy starts to freak out, and Jake is like, "Should we do something?" And Finn is like, "Nah, I have some kind of a bond with the comet." Now, I think he thinks he did the astral plane thing with the Catalyst Comet, and I think he is mistaking the comet for maybe the return of Martin. He says because it's there just to shake things up. Meanwhile, Starchy runs off and begins to panic, and it's like, "Mrs. Buttermilk, the comet be coming, it's gonna smush us all." So Jake is like, "Should we try to stop this?" And Finn's like, "Nah." After the whole knock my tower down thing, I don't want to go through that again. Huh? A lot of people got smushed. This is from after Martin came and the whole comet thing, and he lost his arm, and you know, it was... Yeah, so Finn's just trying to, go through this in the normal sense. So they figure the citizens need to be talked to by their leader to calm them down. So they go into the castle to search for the King of Ooh, and they hear this tap, 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 metal tapping, and they're like, "What's going on?" So they head down into the dungeon. Alright, let's see, head down into the dungeon. Let's see. Now, in the dungeon they see the spaceship also from the tower episode, only it has more engines attached to it, and Mr. X be trying to work on it. So Finn be like, "Stop what you're doing." So he and Jake attack, and then suddenly Mr. X pulls out a ray gun that hits Finn and knocks him down. And then Jake successfully catches up to Mr. X and knocks him silly. And then Jake screams, "What be going on?" So Finn's like, "Hey, I'm back in." Ah! What the? It be the great green brain coming from Guntar? That's right, it's Brain Guntar. He be back. He knocks Finn and Jake away and climbs into the rocket. And then suddenly, in a voice, he says, "Sayonara, suckers." Clearly, Gunter spoke. Oh. Meanwhile, the kingdom is in a panic. Everything is turned purple, and the citizens are panicking. Banana guards be trying to throw their spears at the comet, but they just rain down to the people. And Starchy yelling, "Comet, comet, comet, comet!" And he tries to throw a trash can through a window, but the trash can's plastic and bounces off and hits him. King of Ooh is like, "Oh great, I've been princess for 4 hours, and already the kingdom's going crazy. What do I do? Is somehow this all my fault?" The King of Ooh is actually having some kind of epiphany, trying to figure out if this is his fault. Meanwhile, his secretary be like, "No, if without your common presence, this would have gotten really bad. You'll be remembered as a hero." "You're right, it's a good point. Besides, we gotta find the person who's really responsible. Princess Bubblegum, this be all her fault." Suddenly the ground starts shaking, and people be wondering what be going on. And then we cut back to the inside of the cabin where it's being worked on. Now Princess Bubblegum, she'd be like, "It's like, this be good. It's like we be starting a new kingdom, only without all me chicken-eyed subjects." Chicken-eyed subjects? Who writes this? She figures maybe the King of Ooh can hold down the fort for a few days. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah, you never ask what's the worst that could happen, princess. Oy. So she decides to step out for some air. And she's like, "Why is everything so purple out here?" Kaboom! And suddenly off in the distance, there's a great explosion and a plume of smoke rising up from the kingdom. And thus, part 1 of the 2-part half-hour special comes to a conclusion. The end. Yeah, so apparently, the princess's dream is starting to come to fruition in all aspects. Some metaphorical, some figurative, and a few literal aspects here and there. So I thought this was good. I mean, seriously, what would the princess do if she was dethroned? She does seem to have some place to live. Peppermint Butler seems to be loyal to her and following her. And this is interesting. Events from the Orgalor have now merged with this episode. So now, what's going on? We have the Catalyst coming. We have Orgalord. We have the princess losing her kingdom. This will be building up to the epic finale. So for this episode, I give Hot Diggity Doom 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was funny, and it's interesting how the high and mighty princess is no longer in charge. I wonder what would happen if she actually did campaign. And then, of course, the fact that the squirrel lured off the Gumball Guardians, I think is the only reason how Guntar could have gained access to the castle. And possibly figured out about the fly-in and the Catalyst Comet, so who knows. Alright, until next time, this will be Captain Jeff, saying, thank you for watching me review and question Adventure Time. Be sure to tune in next time for the final epic conclusion of this week-long special event. That leads to, like, the season finale or the season's mid-finale, but this is great. You won't want to miss it. Have a nice day, and as always, arrgh.